The seat is reportedly getting hotter and hotter when it comes to Matt Eberflus, and we even have now rumors of a short list that the Chicago Bears could be looking at if they do decide to move on from Matt Eberflus. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's Chicago Bears Central.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And it's been a interesting few days for Matt Eberflus. And I think when you look at it, and I get it, yesterday's press conference really triggered a lot of Chicago Bears fans. I think when it really comes down to it is that we're seeing all of the worst tendencies and everything, all the biggest knocks on Matt Eberflus all rear their ugly head since last week's game up until this point. You pair that with what a lot of the players in Jalen Johnson and DJ Moore and other players have said, even kind of some of Caleb Williams' comments, and as more and more things come out, of course, the news cycle and everything is all built around what is going to be the future of Matt Eberflus. And I think sometimes people are forgetting that we are a 4-3 team. And I've seen a lot of Bears fans kind of lose hope. And the question that I have for it is that if one loss to the Washington Commanders, no matter how bad is it, has completely shaken your view of the Chicago Bears team, how strong was that view even initially, right? And I get it. There are big tests coming for the Chicago Bears team, and there's a lot of doubts around this team between injuries and everything like that. But it seems like there's been a complete kind of pivot when it comes to the Bulls, comes to the Bears, from a lot of Bears fans in regards to like having the outlook of, hey, this team could compete for a playoff or a wild card spot, to now I've seen more and more Bears fans say, this team isn't going to do anything. We're going to lose. Like, even somebody said we're going to lose 10 games straight. Like, I get it when it comes down to it. And I understand that last week's loss or Sunday's loss it's bad. It leaves a very sour taste in your mouth. And when you look at the offensive line, Caleb Williams' performance, Matt Eberflus, it's no real signs of it getting better yet. But here's what I'll say: like, the games to be played for a reason, and you never know how things are going to shake down and break out. And while the Bears have games against the Cardinals and games against the the Patriots and things like that, but the tests are coming, and that's something that I've said for a while now: is that the biggest tests for the Chicago Bears are coming down the road. But the question is coming outside of that, what's going to be what is going to be the future of Matt Eberflus, right? You got comments from him yesterday. The game didn't finish the way we wanted to. That starts with me taking a little bit of accountability. Caleb Williams even confirming yesterday that he was trying to get Matt Eberflus back on the sideline in the final little stretch there because he was worried about them getting a flag for Matt Eberflus. So that, of course, once that came out, people were more so saying, hey, listen, Matt Eberflus is so unaware. Look at this, right? And I'm in no way going to try to sell anybody on Matt Eberflus as a head coach. It's been what it's been. It's going to be what it's going to be. But when you look at this Bears team overall, right, I'm still trusting this defense. I am still trusting that this offense can put up enough plays. I'm still looking at a defense that has kept teams from scoring over 21 points against them. I'm still looking at all those things. That's going to put an offense in a position to be able to win football games. All hope is not lost for me yet. And while I understand that it being there for a lot of Bears fans, you see other teams around the NFC North making moves to shore up their offensive line. It's just pile on top of pile right now for the Chicago Bears, and it's taken away a lot of Chicago Bears fans' optimism. In no way am I asking Bears fans to be blind. In no way am I asking Bears fans to just sit on their hands and say, we're going to get it done because hope, right? But I think when you look at it, the game of football is to be played for a reason, and you put things out on the football field. How many times have we seen a team punch above their weight because they get in rhythm, right? How many times have we seen things break lucky for teams over the course of it as well? It's not to say that the Bears don't have serious things that they need to address with this roster, with this team, even with the coaching staff. They do, right? But that kind of 180 that I've seen done in a week's time, right, coming from the week before the bye week till now, it's just been, it seems like, I get it, that loss was heartbreaking. The heartbreak in Washington is real, right? That shit is real. But like, let's get more level-headed about it, right? There's still positive signs with this team. there's still a lot of positivity overall with this team. Yes, we have injury concerns and things like that. We're going to get into that here shortly, but we'll see what happens with this Bears team. I am in no way losing faith in this Bears team ability to compete. I'm just not. I get it. Yeah, it's a sucky game. And their 3 losses so far this season have sucked. Make no mistake about it. But I'm going to sit in the place where I'm going to keep waiting. I'm going to keep waiting. And I'm going to let the games tell me what it's going to tell me. But, and I'm a more optimistic person in general when it comes to my teams. And that just is what it is, right? But I think, to lose all hope, it's just like, let's chill out a little bit and let's let the story tell us. The story of the season is going to be the story of the season, and we're going to have to make some tough decisions. Now, will one of those tough decisions be moving on for Matt Eberflus? And that is what we're getting into next. It's starting to be, some, of course, conversations around the Chicago Bears. We got Bears insiders and things pointing out people that are on the Bears shortlist. So right now, it is said right now that the Bears are hoping that things turn around. They're looking at the games that the Bears have coming up on their schedule, but the Bears do have a list of options ready if they do need to move on from Matt Eberflus and if they have to make that decision. So, that's some things when you come down to it, it makes sense, right? Now, we do have from Jeff Hughes saying this, but on the drive back from D.C. to New York Monday and throughout the day Tuesday, I texted everyone trying to gauge what the league-wide consensus was on Matt Eberflus. Here's what I gathered in that informal survey. Eberflus is an exceptionally well-liked man in the league. Said one personnel guy never make decisions after a Hail Mary loss, and he's been through a bad one. One scout said the Ben Johnson Breer leak was interesting timing. Johnson smells blood in the water. I had to sit with this text for a bit. Is Ben Johnson really thinking about his next job in October while being the OC of a team that looks like the overwhelming favorite to make the Super Bowl from the NFC? And said one former personnel guy says these next few games are very important. And I do agree with that. The next few games, the ending of the season is very important for the Chicago Bears in making that decision. The Bears are 4-3 right now. And while the Bears are not going to fire a head coach midseason, it's not going to happen. I get why some people hold out hope and thinking that can happen. I get it. I understand. There's definitely going to be hope for that. But at the end of the day, the Bears, they need to play this right. And while it sucks right now, where the Bears are, it sucks. And not even to say that because Matt Eberflus is a well-liked guy around the league, that means he's a good head coach, right? It doesn't mean that because we know that Matt Eberflus is a hell of a defensive coordinator. One thing you cannot take away from him is that he is a hell of he can coach the hell out of a defense. The problem is you're the head coach of the Chicago Bears, which means you're in charge of everything, not just the defense. So while you do get some credit for turning around this defense on the slides that they were on over the last few years before you took over that team, you've improved it. Ryan Poles is drafted well, all those type of things, but you're not just judged by your defense. You're judged by the totality of the team and what you're bringing here. So with the Bears' next 2 games being against the Arizona Cardinals and the New England Patriots, depending on how things shape out for the Bears, if the Bears win both those games and they come out of that 6-3, right? Don't be surprised if the tone around the conversation from the national media around Eberflus changes. Now, I do want to say that the Bears cannot allow that. Overall, whatever happens this season happens this season. An evaluation needs to be done about what gets the Bears to the next level. The Bears we fired coach with 10 wins before, right? Other teams around the NFL have fired coaches with 10 and 11 wins. So it's not necessarily saying that if the Bears finish at a certain level, they should just blindly hold on to Matt Eberflus, but you got to watch it. We're 7 games into a 17-game season, right? And there have been some signs of concern. There have been some signs of some things going in the right direction as well. But Matt Eberflus, to me, is not doing himself any favors with talking. Like Matt Eberflus, every time he speaks, right? And let me not say every time. At the beginning of the season, it was a little bit different. We had talked about Matt Eberflus looks more poised. He looks more confident. And maybe this is a sign of the confidence being shaken in Matt Eberflus after such a bad loss. But he's going back to some of the things in press conferences over his first couple of years here that made me feel not confident in him as a head coach. But the Bears front office is right to start putting together a short list. And, per Dan Bernstein, people are starting to smell blood in the water. Now, that blood in the water could go away, but they are starting to see that. And if it means that there are some other coaches that are interested in this Bears situation and that the Bears have mutual interest in them, it could make for an interesting offseason. So this also comes out from Dan Bernstein saying this. That there's a short list right now for the Chicago Bears of people that they would be interested in, which include Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator from the Lions. Nobody's really surprised about that. Ben Johnson's name has been mentioned around the Bears a lot in the last 3 or 4 days, right? And the question is that Ben Johnson, being on that team and on that Detroit Lions team, being a hell of an offensive coordinator and what he brings there, it's natural that he would want to progress to the next stage of taking on a head coaching job and role. Now, the question that you have to ask yourself is Ben Johnson really ready to take on the Chicago Bears position, right? And again, short list here, meaning that if they have to move on, Ben Johnson is as good a name of any to be on that Bears short list. You look at what he's done with the Detroit Lions offense. We need a dynamic player. And, the question is that how much of the Bears' current offensive staff will want to stay on under Ben Johnson? That's a big question as well, right? It's not just as simple as moving on from Matt Eberflus, bringing in a new head coach, and things stay the same. The Bears just spent a lot of money to overhaul their offensive coaching staff and to bring in Eric Washington as DC. Now, Washington has been a Chicago Bears coach before. I do think he'd probably want to stay on, but there's no giving for the guys. Now, the Bears built a list of offensive staff of a lot of coaches who other teams were interested in as their OC. And there's a lot of talent there. So the Bears are going to have to ask themselves how many people will want to stay on if they do move on from Matt Eberflus. But listen, you bring in Ben Johnson. I think if you bring in Ben Johnson and you get to keep Eric Washington as your DC to keep some continuity on what we're doing on that defensive side of the ball, if he overhauls everything yet again, kind of got to trust Ben Johnson because of what he's been able to do offensively with that Detroit Lions team. The next one on this reported short list for the Bears is Kliff Kingsbury. Now, this is a guy that the Bears interviewed for their OC position. He ends up going on. He's done a wonderful job with the Washington Commanders. And this is the Bears revisiting somebody that they have already had a conversation with. And so they could be familiar with some of the thought process that he had on how he would want to use some of the players here with Chicago. And so Kliff Kingsbury is a good candidate. Make no mistake about it. The Bears are seemingly going with a kind of a different outlook on the head coach. And I know some Bears fans, I already know, I've been part of this fan base my whole entire life. Some Bears fans are going to say, when we went first-time head coach before, do we want to do it again? You got to just go out and get the right guy, right? And so Kliff Kingsbury being on that short list for the Chicago Bears, if they do move on from Matt Eberflus, it makes a lot of sense there. We'll see, right? And then lastly, Bobby Slowick. This is with the offensive coordinator with the Texans. So these are all offensive-minded guys. And I think that's saying a lot of what the Bears are looking for. They had some defensive-minded head coach, and they're looking for a guy that can come in and really take this offense to the next level. And so this reported shortlist are all really solid candidates. Again, don't get too overly excited about it right now. We got to see how it's going to develop. But the fact of the matter is, Matt Eberflus is 14-27 as a head coach. He's 3-17 on the road and 1-13 against teams with winning records. That is enough to really try to evaluate depending on how you finish the season. And I think that stretch that we've been talking about for a long time, right? That stretch after week 11 where we're facing mainly division rivals, those last 8 games, could be very important to deciding the future of Matt Eberflus. Now, I don't think that should be the total evaluation, but it could be very important in that. And I know Bears fans are tired of Flus. And again, can't blame me. This isn't one of those situations where I'm telling anybody they're wrong for how they feel about head coach Matt Eberflus. They're just going to have to make some decisions. And we'll see what those decisions bring for the Chicago Bears. But it is a big one, and it's a big story for how this season finishes. Matt Eberflus is shaking. You can see it. And I can tell you right now, when your head coach is shaking, that could reverberate through the rest of your that's the word that I'm looking for, through the rest of your roster. So seeing how Matt Eberflus brings this team together after some adversity. You got 2 games that are easier, right? You still can't take anything for granted in the NFL. And then you can try to cleanse the palate of this loss to the Washington Commanders, but then shit's getting real again. And so how well Matt Eberflus has this team prepared for when shit gets real again, that's going to be a big test for how I feel about Matt Eberflus to finish this season. And we'll see. I get it. Bears fans, we're in this period of time. We've had to sit with this loss. And there's nothing worse than sitting with a heartbreaking loss for a week, right? It's much different in basketball. One thing with me covering the Bulls and the Bears that bad losses you can get over quicker in the NBA because if you just win your next 2 games, which is probably over 2 or 3 days after your last loss, it kind of cleanses that palate. In football, a bad loss, a heartbreaking loss, you got to sit with for at least a week. Thank God it didn't happen before a bye week. Could you imagine if we had to sit with this over 2 weeks? Man, Bears fans would be going crazy right now. So, that's just what I think about it. It is what it is. We're going to deal with it as the way that we can deal with it as a franchise, and we'll see where that leaves us. But one thing as well that we got to talk about is the Chicago Bears injury report, which is super concerning right now, right? So in yesterday's injury report, now keep in mind, Wednesday injury reports, sometimes it's just getting players a little bit of extra rest. A lot of the players that did not play can end up playing by Thursday or Friday, and we'll see what it means there. But Kieran Amagaje with the calf injury did not play, right? Braxton Jones with that knee injury, which he's listed as week to week, he did not participate in practice yesterday. And then that's added to Ryan Bates, who's coming back. His 21-day window's open. He was limited. Tevin Jenkins was limited. And we just put Bill Murray on the injury reserve as well. Larry Borum was a full participant in practice. What does this leave? This leaves the Bears in a situation where our offensive line is completely and utterly ravaged. That's just what it is, right? And so the Bears have a lot of scenarios in front of them where they got to figure out something. Now, Matt Pryor could shift to left tackle. Ryan Bates, who can come back, play whatever position the Bears need him to play. But it's left the situation now where there's talk that the Bears could have to play Nate Davis. And I don't know about you, but Nate Davis as a break glass in case of emergency option sucks. It sucks. Us to have to rely on a player but via his performance, right? It wasn't because of anything personal or outside of football. Via his performance. It's not like Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert fell out of the rotation because the Bears have moved on. Nate Davis fell out of the rotation because his performance was ass, right? That's where we sit with Nate Davis. So the fact that the Bears sit in a place now where this offensive line is in such a bad position that we may have to rely on Nate Davis to give us some depth, I don't know about you, but that's a scary proposition. Now, I do hope that the Bears, some of these guys can get back healthy by the start of the game. I know that a lot of people weren't necessarily enamored with Kieran Amagaje's snaps when he played, and he played 71% of the snaps. But keep in mind, this is a guy who we all knew was raw. He was coming back from injury. He hasn't really gotten a chance. Don't judge him too harshly. Braxton Jones being out with the knee injury for a couple of weeks, that's going to hurt, right? Regardless of Braxton Jones, and in my opinion, not really improving a lot, he's still a solid tackle, right? And then you got, Ryan Bates, him coming back. How long is that going to take for him? The 21-day window was open. It's good that he was a limited participant in practice, so that means that it's progressing in the right way. But there's no assurances that Ryan Bates is going to be available for Sunday's game either. Same with Tevin Jenkins, right? It's good that they're limited rather than not participating at all in practice. And I think today is going to tell a lot, and Friday, of course. But the injury concerns are starting to stack up for the Bears. Now, Montez Sweat was also on the Bears injury report, but he's kind of always been on the Bears injury report to start off the week. I'm not really too worried about that. But the fact that we still have Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker not practicing either, those are big concerns for me, especially if Jaquan Brisker is still in the concussion protocol, because Jaquan Brisker is important. And I would go so far as to say if Jaquan Brisker was in that game against the Washington Commanders, that Hail Mary wouldn't have been given up. His awareness is just too damn good, in my opinion. And maybe that's just me putting too much on one player, right? But I think that these are really big things, especially for a time period where people are asking what's going on with Tyreek Stevenson. I don't think he's going to be benched, right? We do got Terrell Smith coming. He's back and things like that. But overall, the Bears, I get it. Maybe they want to be practice precaution with these players because, again, of that gauntlet that we're going to face here to end the season after Week 11. But it's some big concerns, at least for me right now, that those two guys are still not cleared and healthy, right? Especially Jaquan with it being a concussion. We need these guys because, as we've seen, the defense is the linchpin of what puts us in position to win games. We're not winning games via our offense yet. We're winning games because of our defense being able to keep teams out of the end zone. And these are two very important players in that. So while the offensive line is completely and utterly beat up, and we'll see if Ryan Poles gets to work on bringing in some talent here, having guys that we know have been a stalwarts in such big important parts of what we're able to do defensively and the versatility that we've carried as a team defensively and built up over the last few years. I tell you what, missing those guys is going to be really important. Missing a guy like Kyler Gordon, what he means to coverage, pass rush, the run blitzing as well. Like, Kyler Gordon is so important to the Bears' identity for that. And while Terrell Smith is great, Tyreek Stevenson is really good, they don't really replicate what Kyler Gordon's able to do at that nickel position. So the Bears have some serious injuries, and I think they're more serious as far as the Bears, the competition level that we're facing is about to get stronger and stronger and stronger. Man, it's a little bit of concern there. It's definitely a little bit of concern, man. But this just came out as well. This from Dan Weirder says, from what I understand, it will not be a surprise if Tyreek Stevenson does not start Sunday in Arizona. Sign seems to be pointing in that direction. Man, I get it that Tyreek Stevenson made a mistake, but maybe it's just a wake-up call. We'll see what happens there, man. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But overall, the Bears need health, and we need to get health over the point of time. And listen, I'm watching very closely to see what Ryan Poles does with this offensive line at the trade deadline. But you guys, as always, let me know how you feel down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.